attention instead to the regulative principles of devotional service. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 69.
Just a minute, Mataji. Okay. We'll stop here. So before we go on, I think, so in previous two paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada is talking about Satovrittya. So following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. So I think this is very important to understand. Actually, this is a very important point that we should always follow in the footsteps of our previous acharyas or our parampara, you know. So your Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru. So the instruction coming from them, I think we should very sincerely, we should actually adopt them in our daily lives, and we try to actually follow the same mood. So as you may have realized that Hare Krishna WECAN, we have particular kind of mode that we follow, you know. So that is the mode of His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, you know. And we are very philosophically minded actually group, and we spend a lot of time studying scriptures, and we I think Amrish Prabhu is very strong in actually encouraging everyone and to implement this instruction in our real lives, right? So that is our mood, and obviously we are very focused on preaching as well. But Srila Prabhupada is talking here about actually where he said that we should always remain, you know, actually on the platform of pure goodness, and that is actually good for our devotional service. So waking up early in the morning to do a Mangala Arati, then actually scriptural study, you know, reading Srimad Bhāgavatam, and then Kirtan and so on. And that also involve, you know, when you have the family, then you actually prepare actually different preparation or feast for Krishna, you do the offerings, you know. So your whole actually life will fill with Krishna conscious activities. So we are also going to the job, or actually, you know, some are doing the businesses. So they have to also do these material activities. But as we previously discussed in the text number 2 as well, that actually when we do this, actually our intention should be to actually use the actual output, you know, or money that we earn.
Just show your video, please. Just remove the share. Thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Sorry, I just lost the point. Okay. Yes. So what we're saying that we actually fill, you know, our actually our whole day with different Krishna conscious activities. So that will also include chanting as well. So, you know, Srila Prabhupada is saying that we have expertly filled, you know, so that is actually Srila Prabhupada has taught all these actually chores that we do in actually Krishna conscious, you know, movement, that one is actually spending most of their time in devotional things, you know. That way we have very little time left that actually we can actually engage in materialistic activities. So this is a mode, you know, actually set up by Srila Prabhupada, and that is a mode we should follow. So that is actually called following the footsteps, you know. We should not create our own rules and regulations or according to your own convenience, you know, whatever actually instructions or whatever training that we received from your Shiksha Guru, then we should actually follow that, you know, without any actually making any changes. Obviously, you can actually, you know, consult, you know, with your counselors or, you know, your Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, and they can actually very nicely can guide you if there are any issues, you know, in your day-to-day activities. So also when we say actually following the footsteps, so there are some people actually try to imitate as well, you know, the Srila Prabhupada or previous acharyas. So the Anukarana, Anusharana, there are two things. So for us, actually, for grown-up devotees, you know, Anukaran is not recommended. You know? We should actually take do the Anusharan. We should actually take the shelter, you know, of your actually Guru or Shiksha Guru, and we do things in that particular mode, you know, without challenging attitude, or we should not imitate to be a very exalted devotee when we are not. So that is also an important point. And again, in the second paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is actually again just putting emphasis where actually he referred to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction, where he says that cultivation of knowledge by philosophical speculation, the collection of mundane opulence by advancement of fruitive activities, and desire for yogic siddhis, they're all contrary to our devotional service. So we should actually try to actually stay away from these things because it's not going to be very congenial, right? So fruitive activities to earn, actually a lot of materialistic things or property and money. So means one, actually you can earn, as we previously discussed, as long as your main aim remain, towards actually centered on Krishna, how, and you can actually engage whatever resources you have in Krishna's service. That is what we call Yukta Vairag, right? So, but again, initial stages, you will learn as you go, no? So more and more things will be actually revealed as you actually progress, that how you can actually engage all the resources. I'm still learning, actually Amrish was guiding us very nicely. But sometime, as Guru Maharaj says, that actually Maya Devi sometime gives us instruction, spiritual instruction in the guise of materialistic motives, So, sorry, no, actually material instruction in the guise of spiritual instruction, So it may sound like it's a spiritual thing to do, but we try to actually, try to maybe do materialistic thing that actually pleases us. So maybe very simple example would be we're having very opulent prasad on regular basis, right? Where Srila Prabhupada said that one should actually, if you really want to progress, one should actually control the atyahar, one should accept the simple food that you daily offer to the Krishna, and that way you can actually stay in good health as well. So there are many things, actually, if you meditate on various things, you can actually, it will be revealed, So if you have any questions, the things that you do on daily basis, and if you think it's very relevant here that you want to clarify any doubts, we can actually discuss that as well. Also the yogic siddhis and actually philosophical speculation. So this is a similar point what we discussed in previous text number 2 as well, that cultivation of knowledge by philosophical speculation, right? So they're again talking about the philosophers and speculators who try to understand Krishna, by experimental knowledge and all that. So we don't do that actually. So we should not actually associate with such philosopher or Mayavadis. That is not going to help us. As well as the yogic siddhis, that is again materialistic thing because they try to attain different kind of siddhis. So if you think these are all material desires, to have some magical powers and all that. So that is also is not going to be very congenial if you really want to actually get to the stage of pure devotional service. So as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur actually saying that one has to become thoroughly callous to such non-permanent activities and turn his intention instead to the regulatory principle of devotional service, right? So that is what we call Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, so we can continue, Mataji. Reading that. Let me share the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji. According to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 69, Yanasha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanasha pashyatu muneha. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective stage. Engagement in the devotional service of the Lord is the life and soul of the living entity. It is the desired goal and the supreme perfection of human life. One has to become confident about this. And one also has to be confident that all activities other than devotional service, such as mental speculation, fruitive work, or mystic endeavor, will never yield any enduring benefit. Complete confidence in the path of devotional service will enable one to attain his desired goal, but attempting to follow other paths will only succeed in making one restless. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated, one must be calmly convinced that those who have given up devotional service to engage in severe austerities for other purposes are not purified in their minds, despite their advanced austerities, because they have no information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, so just a minute. So the Bhagavad Gita verse 2.69 that Srila Prabhupada has referred here, where he's saying that what is the night for all the being is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all the beings is night for introspective sage, right? So this is very beautiful translation. And actually we need to understand means what that exactly means. So if you actually go back and actually what Srila Prabhupada has written, so for actually the devotees or yogis, we are not very much interested into materialistic activities, right? So what we do that actually we wake up for the Mangalarti, we do the actually study of the scriptures, we're actually focus a lot of our time into the preaching and doing all the devotional services, so it's devotional service as we discussed is very dynamic and is quite active as well. So these things, if you think from the materialistic people's point of view, they are very distasteful, they are not very much interested into these things. So all these activities are just like a night for them, right? Where actually they remain asleep, right? So they're not very much interested into self-realization, and they do not want to actually engage their time in the activities that devotees are doing, right? So instead, in this actually, as I said, it is like a night for them and they remain asleep to the self-realization. So they're always thinking or dreaming about actually doing various materialistic activities, right? So basically they want to satisfy their own senses by doing various things. So eating certain kind of food or watching movies or going to the games and all that. So they are very much actually inclined to do those things. But for devotees, actually, who is very confident and who's actually focused on becoming Krishna conscious, they enjoy these things, doing all the devotional services and activities, and they actually progress steadily on this path, So if you think, actually, it's very contrary, both actually, we are not interested into materialistic things. So if you're actually in the beginning, slowly, we will actually develop, taste for the devotional service, and we lose a taste for materialistic thing that we used to do in the past, right? So like drinking liquor and going to the parties and all that. So we are not very much interested now. We do not enjoy those things. So whatever actually, the day for the materialistic people is like a night for us. So, and vice versa, right? As we discussed. So that is actually meaning of that verse. And Srila Prabhupada is also very nicely actually explained in the purport, where he's saying that one has to become very confident about this, and also one has to be confident that all activities other than devotional service, such as mental speculation, pretty work, mystic endeavor, as we discussed earlier, will never yield any enduring benefit. So unless we are fully convinced that actually the goal that we're trying to achieve, to become Krishna conscious, if you're not confident about this goal, then our intelligence is always going to be multi-branch, as we discussed previously, and we will always actually going back and forth, So sometimes we actually go and engage into materialistic thing, again we come back to the devotional thing. So it's always up and down. So maybe in the initial stages it's normal, but progressively we should actually give up, the things, materialistic things, and increase our devotion towards devotional activities. So that means we are actually progressing. But if you remain at the same stage, and if your goal is not one, if you're not focused on that single goal, and if you still have a doubts what you're trying to achieve, then as I said, if there are doubts in your mind, then your faith is not firm, So it's very difficult to progress. So that's why the association of devotees are very, very critical, because if you associate with the devotees more and more, actually because of association, we can see how these devotees are very nicely, they're progressing and how they are actually very happy in the things they are doing. So that will actually help us develop that taste. So association is very important. So if you associate with materialistic people more and more, then it's very hard to actually progress on this front. So that is actually what I understood, what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say here as well. And also, one must be calmly convinced that those who have given up devotional service to engage in severe austerities for other purposes are not purified in their mind, and despite their advanced austerities, they have no information about transcendental living service of the Lord. So we should also convince that actually engaging into things that are not devotional is not going to yield any permanent result. That's always going to be temporary, and that will always bring miseries to us. So actually understanding these things and actually developing a confidence in this process is actually going to be very helpful. We can continue reading that, Mataji.
It is further stated in the 10th canto, although mental speculators and fruitive actors may perform great austerities and penances, they still fall down because they do not have information about the lotus feet of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord, however, never fall down. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 31, the Supreme Personality of Godhead assures Arjuna, Kaunteya pratijanati janini name bhakta prayashyati. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Again, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 40, Krishna says, Neha bhikrama nashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Sometimes a person will give up his ordinary material engagements and out of sentiment take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and thus begin the preliminary execution of devotional service. Even if such an immature devotee falls down, there is no loss on his part. On the other hand, what is the gain of one who executes the prescribed duties according to his varna and ashram, but does not take to devotional service? Although a fallen devotee may take his next birth in a low family, his devotional service will nonetheless resume for where it left off. Devotional service is ahetati apratihata. It is not the effect of any mundane cause, nor can it be terminated by any mundane cause or permanently curtailed by any material interruption. Therefore, a devotee should be confident about his engagement and should not be very interested in the activities of the karmis, jnanis, and yogis.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. So here, Srila Prabhupada is actually saying that mental speculators are fruity worker, even they actually perform very great austerities, right? So Mayavadis also, they do a lot of austerities and they want to actually merge into the Brahman or even the body of Krishna as well. There are two different things, but still, even they manage to actually, even they achieve that destination, actually merging into the Brahman. Still, because there is always chance for them to fall down because when they merge into Brahman, there is in the Brahman, they have the eternity, eternity aspect is actually achieved there. There is also some knowledge as well, right? But as we say, the spirit soul actually is made of three things: eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The bliss part is missing there, and if there is no bliss, they will always hanker for that actually bliss part, and it is said that sometime just to have that, they actually again come down to the earthly planets, so that they can also say they have that association and bliss part, they try to achieve that. So there is always chance for them to fall down. That's what actually Srila Prabhupada is saying. And even for the karmis, even they do different or various karma processes to elevate themselves to the heavenly planets, right? So whatever actually activities or pious activities they do, and to enjoy that result into heavenly planet, that is again going to be temporary, because as soon as they exhaust all their pious activities, results of their pious activities, they have to again come down. So basically they again come down to the earthly planet, or even going to the lower planets as well. So they are actually perpetually actually revolving in this cycle, right? So there is no any permanent actually achievement there, because everybody want to be happy, right? But there is no actually permanent happiness for them. They have to go up and down, as Srila Prabhupada says. But for the devotees, where Srila Prabhupada is referring to 9.31 here, Bhagavad Gita verse, and is asking Arjuna to declare that his devotee never perishes, right? So that is actually assurance given by Lord Krishna, and actually he's asking Arjuna to declare it. And because Lord Krishna always, he has a special place in his heart for all his pure devotees. He never breaks their word. So if you become pure devotee of Lord, I think as Krishna is saying here that you will never perish. So that is actually assurance given by Lord here. Also in 2.40, where Srila Prabhupada referred here, Neha bikrama nashosti pratyavayana vidyate swalpam apiyasya dharmasya trayate mahito bhayat. So even if one begins on this path, so even if you come into contact with the devotees and you actually somehow begin doing some kind of devotional things or chanting or do some services, but if you cannot able to actually complete your journey going back to Godhead, still it is said that there is no loss on your part. You haven't lost anything, because in a next life maybe you may actually go to the heavenly planets, depending what kind of activities you perform in this life or previous lives, and you can enjoy there. But again, as it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, that once you exhaust the actually results of your pious activities, then because you have done some devotional service, the yogis who couldn't able to complete their actual journey, they will given the opportunity to take birth into very rich or aristocratic family, or into the family of devotee. So they get another chance, the better chance to actually begin. And when they begin, actually, they are not again beginning from the scratch. So in devotional service, where they left off in their previous life, so they are again beginning from that point onward. So there is actually no loss, so devotional thing, whatever you achieve, remains with you in your next life as well. So there is no loss for the devotees, even, and it is said that little advancement on this path can protect one from most dangerous type of fear. So what that mean actually? What is the most dangerous type of fear? Anyone can think of? What do you think? What is the most dangerous type of fear here?
To be forever stuck in this cycle of birth and death, or to be casted in like really like really lower planets. Like we've read it that if you somehow reach to the lower planets, it's very difficult to come back to the human form of life.
Yes, that's correct, Mataji. I think, yeah, because in this life, we have this human birth, so we have opportunity to actually we have intelligence, so we can actually study these things. Actually, we meditate, we chant, and we have all the facilities here to become Krishna conscious. But if we do not do this in this lifetime, then if we always actually engage ourselves in sense gratificatory activities, then because of our bad karmas, we can actually glide down onto the lower species of life, into animal kingdom, or insects, worms, and all that. And as we know, actually, there is no possibility, to actually do the devotional service in that form of life. You have to again wait. You have to actually evolve yourself again back to the human life. So that is all the time is wasted, and it may take many years, millions of years, Srila Prabhupada says. So if you do even little advancement on this devotional path, then even if you cannot, as I said, complete this path, you in the next life, you can actually begin where you left off in this lifetime, So at least, after, if you actually get elevated to the heavenly planets, then again you will come back, but you will have a better chance, in the birth in the family of devotee, or maybe any rich family. So you don't have to worry about all the earning money and going to the job. So you can engage yourself in devotional service. But better, it is said that actually if you take birth into devotee family, is better because your chances of becoming a devotee, is higher than actually you being very rich. Okay. Where to start?
Prabhuji, I had one question.
Yes.
That Prabhupada writes in the first line of this paragraph that devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. So my question is that, I have a lot of questions on this topic, but the first one is that isn't devotional service something that depends on your free will?
Depends on your
on your free will. Like, isn't it something that someone performs out of their own free will? Then how come one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success in devotional service?
It's a very good question, Mataji. I thought about this as well, because so Srila Prabhupada is saying here that if even ordinary person, ordinary materialistic person, sometime out of sentiment, they come to this actually line of actually they come and actually come into association of devotees and they start doing devotional service out of sentiment. So it happens to most of us. We also come into contact with this program and all that. But when I come into contact with the program, I didn't have firm determination to become a devotee, right? It just happened. And then when we actually associate, so when you're little convinced, then you may start chanting, you start to come to these programs and all that. But the things, way things work out, once you start chanting, your purification process begins, right? You realize your mistakes, what anarthas you have done and all that. Then, if you still keep chanting, as long as you're associating with the devotees, then you will slowly progress. And once you begin the deity worship and all that, that actually the formula given by Srila Prabhupada, right? The Pancharatri Vidhi and all that. So we wake up early, you worship deities, you actually prepare and offer bhoga to the deities and all that. So the Krishna, once you engage in things, you will realize, I realize this is just my realization, that actually even you are very much inclined towards materialistic things. So, once you begin the deity worship, you cannot stop it, right? So you will feel guilty if you do not do the actually puja on certain morning and you just actually, doing something materialistic thing, watching TV or something, you feel guilty, So you will always, I don't know how this happens, but you will always feel that you need to do this, right? Once you start, then you cannot stop it. Also chanting, actually, when you start chanting initial stages, maybe you may not be really sincere initially, but as you chant 1 round, 2 round, then if you don't chant your rounds, you will remember and you will feel guilty and you again go back to the chanting. So it takes some time, but slowly, that's how Krishna conquer your world, right? So you slowly progress, then you become steady in your chanting, you become steady in your deity worship, then probably you will accept some services, and then devotees will encourage you again. There are a lot of devotees actually who are in the preaching business, they will always follow up. So I think as your heart get purified, all these anarthas will actually be destroyed slowly. And then actually your inclination will slowly change. So once you begin on this path, the things will happen, the process given by Srila Prabhupada is actually in itself is very purifying, right? It's actually chanting, associating with the devotees, accepting even you come and just have a prasad. As in Bhagavad Gita said that people who are not even chanting or doing anything, just coming to the temple and having prasad because it tastes good. So it is said in Bhagavad Gita that when you actually honor this prasad, actually it purifies the cells in your body, right? So, and if you keep doing this on regular basis, eventually it will purify the actually finer brain tissues in your actually brain. And once that happen, Srila Prabhupada has written in his purport that one can think of a nivritti marg, you know. So that's what actually you will become inclined towards actually doing devotional things like chanting and doing some kind of services. So prasadam works, chanting works, association works, you know. So all these things will actually purify one's existence, right? And that's how slowly our actually material inclinations, you know, so slowly will become actually spiritual. So as devotees progress, you know, then your interest into materialistic thing will go down slowly, and your spiritual interest will increase. So that's what Srila Prabhupada says, that Krishna conquers your world. You know, once he's there, then he will make many things, you know, that you do not understand initially, but things will work out in such a way that, but still, you know, as you said, free will, right? You need to have that free will as well, of course, you know, unless you have the will, how you can actually do the devotional things. So I think it works in both ways, right? If you're really determined, you know, and you have firm faith, then actually you will actually accelerate through this process. But one who lack the faith, or one who has doubts, or one who's lazy, might take quite a bit longer for him to actually progress. So is that actually clarifies this point, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, I had one follow-up question that, like, what if, like, we hear about, like, we've been told about so many devotees who, like, in their, after having been in devotional service for such a long time, they do fall down, that, you know, they stop the process of devotional service, and then there must be devotees who, like, who maybe committed some offenses, like, we have those 10 offenses and things like that. So even they have begun the process of, like, devotional service. So my question is that what happens to them? Like, what of them in the later stages? Do they ever, in like in their next birth or something, do they come back to it? Or, like, I know that there is no definitive answer, but I just want to know that what if someone falls down from devotional service in a serious manner? Does this apply to them as well? That they will be forcibly dragged to ultimate success?
Yeah, means as we just discussed, if someone falls down, you know, the Srila Prabhupada mentioned earlier in that verse that any endeavor, you know, on this path, you know, even little advancement can protect one, you know, from most dangerous type of fear. So they will be, again, if they fall down, obviously they're not going to complete their journey, right? They're not going to achieve their ultimate aim. So even in the next life, so whatever service they've done, you know, whatever actually service they did to their guru or Krishna, you know, on account of that, they may actually, you know, elevated to heavenly planets, you know, I don't know, depend, you know, what they have done. But again, they will given the chance, you know, they may born into rich family, or, you know, in the devotees family. So there is actually better opportunity for them still, you know, waiting for them. So that one thing. And why fall down? Well, actually, means we have actually discussed this point, I think, on a number of occasions, that Srila Prabhupada has given us a formula, right? Actually, if you want to actually progress nicely on this path, then you have to do these basic things, you know. You have to actually do the chanting, and you have to do it very attentively, right? And you have to read Srila Prabhupada books on daily basis. And you have to associate with the right kind of devotees, right? Who have a similar mood. So if you do these basics, and actually, if you're also putting, you know, actually, as it says that very enthusiastically, you are actually accepting the instruction of your Shiksha or Diksha Guru and implementing it, then you are sure to progress, right? So that's what we're discussing in this nectar of instruction. What are the things that are detrimental to our devotional service that we studied, right? Text number 1, 2, probably focus on those points. And now this in text number 3, they're saying that if you do these activities, you can be assured of a success. So what are the things you should not do and what are the things you should do? So if you're not following this instruction properly, then there is always a chance that you will fall down. So yeah, that's actually what I think. And because in this material world, this world is very dangerous. We are always under the influence of Maya and these three modes. And depending what we have done in our previous lives, what karmas, if I done very bad things or anarthas, then I think that will also come back to haunt us as well. So we may go through the difficult stages on account of that, because we have to suffer the reactions of what we have done in the past as well. But if you actually stay focused on this devotional line, then it is said that actually your reaction will not go away, but Krishna will give you a lot of strength to go through the difficult situations, right? So it's all up to you, how determined you are to actually progress on this path. And if you're really enthusiastic and you're really confident in this process, and if you are very loyal to the instruction of your parampara, then actually you can overcome very difficult situations while doing devotional activities. So that is my realization, Mataji. But I think you can also note this question down probably. Maybe at end we can actually spend some more time, and probably we seek also guidance of Amrish Babu if I'm not clarified that point very clearly. Take a minute. Okay, where we are. Do you have any other questions on this point before we continue? And Srila Prabhupada, next point, we will just complete that point. Here is he mentioned in the purport that even if such an immature devotee falls down, there is no loss on his parts that we discuss. On the other hand, what is a gain for one who execute the prescribed duties according to his varna and ashram, but does not take to a devotional service? Although a fallen devotee may take his next birth in a low family, his devotional service will nonetheless resume from where it left off, right? So it is also, he mentioned here, if the devotee is fallen, so the point that you raised, so Srila Prabhupada say he may take a birth in a low family, right? So the reaction is there. Again, so the previous point I wanted to discuss, so what is a gain for one who execute all the prescribed duties according to Varnashram, but does not actually take to the devotional service? So the whole aim of the Varnashram system, so to actually please Krishna, as it is actually mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where it says, Atha Pumbir Dvijashreshta Varnashram Vibhagashaha Sanu Stithashta Dharmasha Samsiddhir Haritoshana. So Samsiddhir Haritoshana. So actually the ultimate aim is to actually please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Hare. That is the aim of a Varnashram Dharma. So you actually, if you are actually depending where you are according to the Varna and Ashram, so you have the prescribed duties, right? And the reason we execute the prescribed duties, so we can actually elevate ourselves to a transcendental platform where we can actually render pure devotional service. So that is a whole aim, right? But if one is actually doing all the prescribed duties, but if he's not actually taking to the devotional service, if he's not interested in serving Lord Krishna, then everything will be actually, wasted, all these attempts. So Varnashram is good actually. It is recommended that one should actually identify its prescribed duties according to his position in Varna and Ashram. So that will actually help us to actually, get to the platform where it says transcendental platform. So we are currently, because we are not on the transcendental platform, and our devotional service is also is a bit mixed. It's not a pure devotional service. It is said there's a mission bhakti currently what we're doing, right? So it's not pure, it's a mission bhakti, but this is just a process, So slowly we are purifying ourselves. But the main point of Varnashram Dharma is to actually, it should translate into love for Godhead, and service to the Krishna. So it's better, actually one takes to the devotional service, even if he's not really strictly following the prescribed duties, still he will progress on that path. And then devotional service, Srila Prabhupada says that it's a ahetuki apratihata, right? It is not the effect of any mundane cause, nor it can be terminated by any mundane cause or permanently curtailed by any material interruption. Therefore, devotee should be confident about his engagement and should not be very interested in the activities of karmi, jnani, and yogis. So, ahetuki apratihata. So, this is mentioned into Srimad Bhagavatam, that devotional service, that where it says, Savai pumsa paro dharmo yathor bhaktir adokshaje ahetuki apratihata yatma suprasiddhati. So, it says that the highest occupational duty for me is to render loving service to Transcendental Lord, and such service, that's devotional service, should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. Right? So Srila Prabhupada is saying that devotional service, you cannot check or stop that by any material thing. It should not be stopped or curtailed. But if we want to make our devotional service uninterrupted, then it has to be unmotivated. So as I said, currently we have material motives. When we do devotional things, probably we desire something material. We ask Krishna for some material benefit. So that is not pure devotional service. So that is a mission bhakti. But if you ask something, Krishna will fulfill, your desires. But if you really want to attain the pure devotion, then we should take out all these material motives when we actually render a service to Krishna. We should serve Krishna in mood of serving him, not to actually gain any material profit, right? So, because normally in the initial stage, the beginner or the new devotee may actually aspire for any material things, but as he progresses, he should understand this point, and if you want to get to that actually ultimate aim of actually pure devotion, then we should not desire any materialistic things. And that is what is actually called pure devotional service. Anya bilashata shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. So anya bilashata shunyam means no material desires. We should not desire anything material. Not any actually money or anything, not even any actually yogic siddhis and all that as well, because that is also material. So when we give up everything and we actually try to serve Krishna and what is favorable to Krishna, we should actually render service according to what is actually needed for Krishna, not actually what is convenient to us. So when we do that, that is called pure devotion, because we keep our things away, right? Our motives or our material desires away. So that way, I think our devotional service can become uninterrupted. Otherwise, as long as we have material things in our mind, then our service is always interrupted. We are always back and forth. So that actually means I experience it myself, and probably when you actually meditate on this point, and you will also understood. But it is possible to actually get to the stage. Just one need to be, as Srila Prabhupada says, is one need to be very confident and enthusiastic, and actually follow all the instruction, follow in the footsteps of the parampara. Then you can get to the stage. Okay, Mataji? So we will stop at this point because just 5 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions? Mayuresh Prabhu, Parth Prabhu as well, because you're not actually speaking. And please actually take time. Actually, if you haven't understood any points, please actually post the question in your intermediate group, because I would imagine that I think our next session will be the last one for this text. We will actually conclude this verse. So please post actually questions so we can have another session, where actually I will actually endeavor to answer your questions, and then we'll also seek Amrish Prabhu's help as well wherever is needed. So we can actually wrap up this text number 3. All right. Then if you don't ask any questions, then I will just assume that you have understood everything. Then we will just progress to the text number 4 then afterwards. Okay, Mataji? Prabhuji? Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Amrish Prabhu, for giving